Captain Hyunwoo stared at the strange readings on his screen. The exploration ship New Seoul had been traveling through empty space for 3 weeks. Now, something was out there, something big. "So Young, check those numbers again," he said to his navigator. The young woman had bright eyes and quick fingers. She was the best at reading star maps in the entire fleet. So Young looked at her instruments twice. "Captain, I see 15 ships, maybe 20. They are coming toward us fast. In the engine room, Taemin felt the ship shake. He was a good engineer who could fix anything, but these vibrations were not normal. Something is wrong, he told himself. He ran to the bridge. Ji-hai sat at the communications desk. She spoke many languages and could talk to anyone. But today her equipment was making sounds she had never heard before. Strange voices filled the air. The words did not sound like any language from Earth. "Captain," Ji-hee said with worry in her voice, "I think someone is trying to talk to us." Hyunwoo nodded. He was a good captain who cared about his crew. "Put it on the main speaker." The voice that came through was deep and strange. It spoke in broken English. "Unknown vessel, identify yourself. State your species and home world." Hyunwoo took a deep breath. This was the moment humans had dreamed about for hundreds of years. First contact with aliens. "This is Captain Hyunwoo of the Earth ship New Seoul. We are humans from the planet Earth. We come in peace." The silence that followed was long and scary. Then, sudden panic filled the alien voice. "Did you say humans? From Earth?" "Yes," Hyunwoo answered. "We are exploring this area of space. We mean no harm." More alien voices started talking at once. They sounded afraid, very afraid. Ji-hai tried to translate, but the words came too fast. She could only catch pieces. Forbidden species, and emergency protocol, and must retreat now. On the main screen, the alien ships appeared. They were beautiful and strange. Silver metal curved in impossible shapes. Lights blinked in patterns that hurt to look at. But something was wrong. The ships were turning around. "They are leaving," So Young said with surprise. "All of them, moving away at full speed." Taemin arrived on the bridge just in time to see the alien fleet disappear. "What happened? Where did they go?" "I do not know," Hyunwoo said. He felt confused and disappointed. "Ji-hai, can you contact them again?" Ji-hai tried, but only static came through the speakers. Then a new voice appeared. This one sounded different, older and more serious. "Human vessel, this is Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Council. Please forgive our reaction. We did not expect to meet your kind here." "Ambassador," Hyunwoo said with hope, "we are happy to meet you. Can we talk face to face?" "That is not possible," Veltar replied quickly. "There are rules, ancient rules that we cannot break. You must understand, humans are protected. We cannot risk being near you." So Young looked at her captain with confusion. "Protected? What does that mean?" Veltar seemed to hear her question. "Your species is listed under Directive 07. No alien race may harm humans. No alien race may put humans in danger. The punishment for breaking this law is severe." "But we do not want special treatment," Hyunwoo said. "We just want to be friends with other species." "Friends?" The alien ambassador sounded shocked. "You do not understand. The law is absolute. It has been in place for 50,000 years, long before your people had spaceships, long before most of our civilizations existed." Taemin whispered to Ji-hai, 50,000 years? But humans only started flying in space 300 years ago." Ji-hai nodded. Nothing made sense. Who made this law? Hyunwoo asked. We do not know, Veltar admitted. The records are very old. Some say it was the Watchers. Others believe it was written into the fabric of space itself. All we know is that any species that harms a human faces complete destruction. Has anyone ever tested this law? So Young asked. The silence was long and heavy. Finally, Veltar spoke. The Darkmar Empire tried 2,000 years ago. They captured a human exploration ship. Within one day, their entire civilization was gone. 12 billion beings. Their home worlds were turned to dust. No trace remained except warnings left for others to find. The crew of New Soul felt cold, fear run through them. They had thought first contact would be wonderful. Instead, they learned they were surrounded by invisible walls of terror. We want to learn about your cultures, Hyunwoo said. We want to trade and share knowledge. Surely, there is a way. Perhaps, Veltar said slowly. But it must be done carefully, very carefully. We will send you coordinates to a neutral station. There we can meet with many species present. Safety in numbers, you understand. The protection field seems to work differently when other species witness our interactions. Ji-Hai wrote down the coordinates as they came through. The numbers pointed to a place 3 days away. We will come to this meeting, Hyunwoo promised. But please help us understand. Why were we given this protection? What makes humans so special? That, Veltar said, is the question that has puzzled the galaxy for millennia. Some believe humans are the children of the ancient rulers. Others think you carry the genetic code of the original Watchers. Many simply believe you are blessed by forces we do not understand. The communication ended, leaving the crew in stunned silence. Taemin was the first to speak. Captain, what do we do now? Hyunwoo looked at his friends and crew members. They were young and brave. They had dreamed of exploring the stars and meeting new friends. Instead, they discovered they were prisoners of their own protection. We go to this meeting, he decided. We learn everything we can, and we find a way to become equals with these people, not their protected pets. So Young started setting course for the neutral station. Captain, do you think the aliens were telling the truth? About the Darkmar Empire being destroyed? I think they believe it is true, Hyunwoo said, and that might be the same thing. Ji-Hai monitored the communications as they traveled. She picked up fragments of alien broadcasts. Most were warnings. Human ship detected in Sector 7. All vessels maintain safe distance. Directive 07 in effect. The words painted a picture of a galaxy afraid of them. Not because humans were dangerous, but because something else was watching. Something that would destroy anyone who hurt a human. As New Soul flew toward its destination, the crew wondered what they would find. Would they discover friends among the stars? Or would they learn that being protected was just another kind of prison? Hyunwoo stood at the front window of his ship, looking at the distant stars. Somewhere out there, ancient forces had decided his species needed protection. But from what? And why? The answers waited at the neutral station 3 days away. Along with aliens who were terrified to be in the same room as humans, yet curious enough to risk a careful meeting. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders. But for humans, it seemed those wonders would always be viewed from behind invisible walls of fear and protection. Dr. Minho packed his research equipment with shaking hands. He was Earth's best expert on alien life, but he had never expected to meet real aliens. The call from Earth Command came 2 days after Captain Hyunwoo sent his report. They needed someone who understood biology and behavior to join the diplomatic mission. Ambassador Yoon-ji was already waiting at the shuttle when Min-ho arrived. She was a calm woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She had spent her life solving problems between different groups of humans. Now, she would try to understand aliens. "Doctor, are you ready for this?" she asked, as they flew toward the neutral station called Harmony Point. Min-ho looked at his notes. "I have studied every report from New Seoul, but I still do not understand why the aliens are so afraid of us. Fear can be rational or irrational," Yoon-ji said. "Our job is to find out which this is." Harmony Point was bigger than any human space station. It looked like a giant wheel spinning slowly in space. Ships from dozens of different worlds were docked around its edges. Each ship was different. Some were long and thin like needles. Others were round like bubbles. A few looked like they were grown instead of built. When their shuttle docked, Min-ho and Yoon-ji were met by 3 aliens. The first was tall and blue with 4 arms. The second looked like a walking tree with golden leaves. The third was small and covered in soft fur that changed colors. "Welcome, humans," the blue alien said through a translation device. "I am historian Kelnath. These are my colleagues, tree singer Ivorth and color speaker Zimmy. We have come to answer your questions about Directive 07. They walked through corridors filled with aliens. Min-ho noticed that every creature they passed moved away from them, not in fear, but in careful respect, like they were walking next to something very dangerous. The meeting room was large and round. Dozens of different species sat in chairs made for their bodies. When the humans entered, everyone stood up. It was clearly a sign of respect, but it felt uncomfortable. "Please sit," Kelnath said, pointing to special chairs. "We have prepared everything you need to understand your situation." Yoon-ji spoke first. "We appreciate this meeting. Humans want to be part of the galactic community. But we do not understand why we need special protection." "The protection is not for you," said tree singer Ivorth in a voice like wind through leaves. "It is for us. Directive 07 protects all species from the consequences of harming humans." Color speaker Zimmy's fur turned deep purple, which Min-ho guessed meant seriousness. "The directive is simple. Any being, any species, any government that causes harm to a human will face immediate punishment. The punishment is always the same: complete destruction." "Who enforces this law?" Min-ho asked. "The Watchers," Kelnath said, "though no one has seen them for thousands of years. They created the directive and then disappeared, but their enforcement systems remain active." Historian Kelnath activated a holographic display. Ancient symbols appeared in the air. "This is a copy of the original directive. We found it carved in stone on 17 different worlds. All the carvings are identical, created at the same time 50,000 years ago." Yoon-ji studied the symbols. They were beautiful but strange. "What do they say?" "Let all beings know," Kelnath translated, "that the children of Terra are under eternal protection. To harm them is to invite extinction. To threaten them is to threaten all life. This law supersedes all other laws. This law cannot be changed or removed. The Watchers have spoken." "Terra," Min-ho said quietly. "That is an old name for Earth." "Yes," said Ivorth. "The directive specifically names your world. It describes humans exactly as you are today. Height, weight, genetic markers, even your brain structure. How this was possible 50,000 years ago, we do not know. Zimmy's fur turned bright yellow. There are theories. Some believe ancient humans once ruled the galaxy. Others think your species was chosen by cosmic forces. Many believe you are the descendants of the Watchers themselves. Has anyone ever tried to change this law? Yunji asked. Several times, Kelnath said sadly. The results were always the same. The most recent attempt was by the Corvan Republic, 300 years ago. They argued that the law was unfair and outdated. They demanded the right to treat humans like any other species. What happened to them? Minho asked, though he feared the answer. They were allowed to present their case to the Galactic Council, Evorth explained. The debate lasted for months. Finally, the council voted to send a formal request to the Watchers, asking for the law to be changed. Zimmy's fur turned dark gray. The response came within hours. Every Corvan ship in space simply stopped working. Their home planet went dark. When rescue teams arrived, they found empty worlds. No bodies, no destruction, no signs of violence. 40 billion Corvans had simply vanished. The room fell silent. Minho felt sick. All of them? Just for asking a question? The message was clear, Kelnath said. The law cannot be questioned. It cannot be changed. It must be obeyed absolutely. Yunji took a deep breath. But surely there must be some way for humans to interact normally with other species. We cannot live in isolation forever. There are limited options, Evorth admitted. The directive allows for peaceful contact when humans initiate it. Trade is possible through automated systems. Knowledge can be shared through electronic communications, but direct interaction must always be carefully controlled. What about friendship? Minho asked. Can humans and aliens become friends? Zimmy's fur brightened to a warm orange. Some have tried. There have been successful relationships between individual humans and aliens, but they require great care and constant awareness of the rules. An older alien in the back of the room spoke up. It looked like a large insect with jeweled wings. I knew a human once, a trader named Park who visited our world regularly. We became close friends over many years, but I could never invite him to my home. I could never introduce him to my family. The risk was too great. The risk of what? Yunji asked. Accidents, the insect alien explained. What if my child accidentally bumped into him? What if he fell downstairs in my house? What if he ate something that made him sick? Any harm that came to him, even by accident, could trigger the directive. Another alien spoke. This one looked like a floating jellyfish made of light. The protection field seems to have some intelligence. It can tell the difference between intentional harm and accidents, but we do not know how it makes these decisions. The risk is too great to test. Minho was taking notes as fast as he could. Are there any records of how the protection actually works? What happens when it is triggered? Kelnath brought up new holographic images. They showed the ruins of dead worlds. These are the remains of civilizations that violated the directive. The destruction is always swift and complete. No survivors, no refugees, no warning. Entire species simply cease to exist. But the strange thing, Evorth added, is that other life forms are never harmed. On the worlds where humans were hurt, every plant and animal survived. Only the species responsible for the harm was eliminated. Yunji studied the images. They were beautiful and terrible. Cities turned to crystal. Ships frozen in space like sculptures. How many species have been lost this way? We have records of 37 confirmed cases, Zimimi said, fur now dark blue with sadness. But there may be more. Some civilizations disappear so completely that we never learn they existed. Is there any way to communicate with these watchers? Minho asked. Many have tried, Kelnath said. Deep space observatories monitor for any signs of them. Archaeologists search ancient ruins for clues, but the watchers remain silent. Some believe they left the galaxy entirely. Others think they evolved beyond physical form. An alien that looked like a walking flower spoke from the corner. There are rumors of sightings, ships that appear and disappear without explanation, energy signatures that match no known technology, but nothing confirmed. Yunji stood up slowly. Thank you all for sharing this information. It helps us understand our situation. But it also creates new problems. How can humans join the galactic community if everyone is afraid to get close to us? That, said Kelnath, is the question we have been asking for thousands of years. Your species exists in a unique position, protected but isolated, safe but alone. As the meeting ended, Minho felt overwhelmed. Humans had dreamed of finding other intelligent life for centuries. Now they learned that they were already connected to a vast galactic civilization. But the connection came with chains made of fear and ancient laws. Walking back to their shuttle, Yunji was quiet. Finally, she spoke. Doctor, what do you think? Are we prisoners or gods? Minho looked out at the alien ships around them. Each one represented a different world, a different way of thinking and living. But none of them could come close without risking everything. Maybe, he said slowly. We are both. Archaeologist Seong Ho had spent his life digging up the past. He loved old things, broken pottery, ancient buildings, and forgotten languages. But nothing had prepared him for this mission. He was going to dig up the history of the entire galaxy. The ship carrying his team was called the Researcher. It was fast and filled with the best equipment Earth could build. With him were two other specialists. Haiwan was a language expert who could read writing systems no one else understood. Dong Hyun was their security chief, a calm man who kept everyone safe. Their destination was Caridian Prime, a dead world at the edge of known space. Long ago, it had been the center of an ancient civilization. Now it was just rocks and ruins. But somewhere in those ruins were the oldest records in the galaxy. How old are we talking about? Haiwan asked as they approached the planet. She was young and excited, with bright eyes and quick fingers that danced over her translation computers. The aliens think some structures are 200,000 years old, Seung-ho replied. Maybe older. If we are lucky, we might find records from before Directive 07 was created. Dong Hyun checked his equipment one more time. He was responsible for keeping the team alive. The alien said this place is safe, right? Safe from other aliens, Seung-ho said. But the planet itself is dangerous. No atmosphere, extreme temperatures, and some areas have strange energy readings. They landed near the largest ruin complex. The buildings were massive, made from stone that seemed to change color in the light. Some blocks were the size of houses. Others formed towers that reached into the thin atmosphere. The construction is incredible, Haiwan said as they walked between the structures. No mortar, no joints. It looks like the whole thing was carved from a single piece of rock. Sung-ho led them to the central building. Ancient aliens had called it the Archive of Memory. Inside, they hoped to find the answers humans needed. The entrance was a tunnel that went deep underground. Their lights pushed back the darkness as they walked. The walls were covered with carvings. Symbols and pictures told stories in languages that had been dead for millennia. "Can you read any of this?" Sheng-Ho asked Haiwan. She ran her fingers over the symbols. "Some of it. This part talks about the time before fear. This section mentions the guardians who came from the third world. And here, something about children of light who brought peace." Dong-hyun kept watch while the others worked. The ruins were empty, but something felt wrong, like they were being watched by invisible eyes. Deep in the complex, they found the main chamber. It was huge, with a ceiling that disappeared into darkness. In the center stood dozens of stone tablets, each one twice as tall as a person. "This is it," Sheng-Ho said with excitement. "The primary archive." The tablets were covered with text in a script unlike anything they had seen. The letters seemed to glow faintly in their lights. Some sections were damaged by time, but most remained clear. Haiwan set up her equipment and began photographing everything. Her computers worked to identify patterns and common symbols. "This is definitely a proto-language," she said. "It is older than anything in our databases." "How long will it take to translate?" Seung-Ho asked. "Days, maybe weeks for a rough translation. But I can already see some familiar concepts." She pointed to a section near the top of the first tablet. "This symbol appears in many galactic languages. It usually means protection or shield." As they worked, Dong-hyun explored the edges of the chamber. He found smaller rooms filled with more artifacts, metal objects that seemed to be tools or weapons, crystal formations that hummed with energy, and paintings on the walls that showed strange scenes. "Sheng-Ho, you need to see this," he called, from one of the side rooms. The painting covered an entire wall. It showed a group of beings that looked almost human. They were tall and wore flowing robes. Around them, other creatures knelt in what looked like worship or respect. Above the human-like figures, symbols that resembled stars and planets formed patterns in the sky. "They look like us," Haiwan said with wonder. "But different too," Sheng-Ho noted. "Taller, thinner, and look at their hands. 6 fingers instead of 5. In the painting, the human-like beings were doing something to the kneeling aliens. Light came from their hands, touching each creature. After being touched, the aliens stood up and walked away, but now they glowed with the same light. "It looks like some kind of blessing or ceremony," Dong-hyun said. Haiwan was taking pictures as fast as she could. "The style is consistent with the tablets. This could be showing the same events described in the text." They returned to the main chamber and worked through the night. Slowly, the translation software began to make sense of the ancient language. Word by word, sentence by sentence, the story emerged. "I have something," Haiwan announced after hours of work. "Listen to this translation of the first tablet. In the time before fear, the first guardians came from the third world around the young star. They brought gifts of mind and spirit to all who lived in the darkness between suns. Those who accepted the gifts became siblings of the light. Those who refused remained in shadow, but were not harmed." Seung-Ho leaned closer. "The third world around the young star. Could that be Earth around the sun?" "It fits," Haiwan said. "But this would mean humans were space travelers 200,000 years ago," she continued reading. "The first guardians established the great network to watch over all siblings of the light. They created servants of metal and energy to enforce the sacred law. No sibling shall harm another. No darkness shall consume the light. Any who break this law shall be removed from the pattern of existence. Servants of metal and energy, Dong Hyun repeated. That sounds like the protection systems the aliens talked about. The second tablet told more of the story. The first Guardians had spent thousands of years traveling the galaxy. They found many young civilizations and offered them knowledge, technology, and something called the gift of the deeper mind. Most aliens accepted these gifts gratefully, but some refused, fearing the humans would try to control them. The Guardians respected these choices and left those species alone, but they also marked them as separate from the protected community. Look at this part, HFY said, pointing to a section on the third tablet. The Guardians created what they called the Watching Eyes, automated systems that would monitor the galaxy after they left. Left? Seung-ho asked. Left to go where? HFY kept translating. They speak of ascending to the next level of existence. They plan to leave physical reality and explore what they called the infinite dimensions beyond. The fourth tablet contained the most important information. It described the creation of Directive 07 in detail. The Guardians gathered representatives from every known species for a great ceremony. During this ceremony, they established the protection law and activated the enforcement systems. The law was not just about protecting humans, HFY explained. It was about protecting the descendants of humans. The text says, "Those who carry the sacred pattern in their flesh shall be as the Guardians themselves." Sacred pattern, Dong Hyun said thoughtfully. Genetic code? It has to be, Seung-ho agreed. They marked modern humans as their descendants and put us under the same protection they had. The fifth tablet revealed why the protection was so extreme. The Guardians had learned that younger species often tried to destroy each other. War was common in the early stages of civilization. By protecting their own descendants absolutely, they hoped to create an example that would teach other species to value life. They wanted us to be teachers, HFY said, living examples of what advanced beings should protect. But the sixth tablet contained a warning. If the descendants ever chose to reject their protection and live as equals with other species, the Guardians would return. They would have to decide whether humanity had grown wise enough to survive without special privileges. Return from where? Dong Hyun asked. The seventh tablet answered that question. The Guardians had gone to explore what they called the spaces between reality, dimensions that existed alongside the normal universe but could not be reached by ordinary means. They had become beings of pure energy and thought. The final tablet was the most mysterious. It contained what looked like a formula or instruction, symbols that described how to contact the Guardians if their descendants ever needed to speak with them. "Can you understand the contact method?" Seung-ho asked. HFY studied the symbols carefully. It involves something called harmonizing the collective mind. I think it means getting a large group of humans to think and feel the same thing at the same time. As they finished documenting everything, Dong Hyun made one more discovery. Hidden behind the largest tablet was a small chamber containing a single artifact. It looked like a crystal sphere filled with swirling light. "Do not touch it," HFY warned as they examined the object. "The carvings around it say, 'Emergency Beacon.' I think it is a direct communication device. Should we take it?" Seung-ho asked. "Not yet," Dong Hyun said wisely. "We need to understand more about what we are dealing with first." As they prepared to leave Caridian Prime, the team felt both excited and worried. They had found the answers to humanity's questions, but those answers raised new questions that were even more frightening. Humans were not just protected by ancient aliens. They were. Research Director Boram was having coffee in her office when the alarm started. She worked at the Frontier Research Station, a small facility at the edge of human space. The station studied new planets and looked for useful resources. It was peaceful work, far from the busy centers of human civilization. The coffee cup fell from her hands as the station shook. Through her window, she could see ships approaching. Many ships. They were black and covered with sharp spikes. Their design was meant to frighten enemies. "Boram, get to the command center now," called Station Commander Jae Sung over the communication system. His voice was calm, but Boram could hear the worry underneath. She ran through the corridors as emergency lights flashed red. Other researchers were also running, their faces filled with fear. The station only had 300 people. It was not built for fighting. In the command center, Jae Sung was studying the tactical display. He was a former military officer with gray hair and steady hands. But today, even he looked concerned. "How many ships?" Boram asked as she arrived. 47, Jae Sung replied. "Korvaxi Empire design, heavy weapons, military crew. They are demanding we surrender." The Korvaxi were known throughout the galaxy as raiders and pirates. They attacked weak targets and stole whatever they wanted. Most civilizations feared them, but no one had the power to stop them. "What do they want?" Boram asked. "Everything," Jae Sung said grimly. "Our research data, our equipment, our people as slaves, the usual Korvaxi demands." Boram felt cold fear in her stomach. "Have you contacted Earth Command?" "I sent a message, but help is 3 days away. The Korvaxi will be here in 20 minutes. On the main screen, the attacking fleet grew larger. The ships were ugly things, built for war instead of beauty. Weapons, pointed toward the research station like hungry mouths. "Can we fight them?" Boram asked, though she already knew the answer. Jae Sung shook his head. "We have 2 security ships. They have 47 warships. It would not even be a battle." The communication system activated, filled with a harsh alien voice. "Human station. This is War Leader Thak Mor of the Korvaxi 7th Fleet. You will surrender immediately. Resist, and you will all die slowly." Jae Sung activated the response system. "This is Commander Jae Sung of Frontier Research Station. We are a peaceful scientific facility. We have no weapons worth your interest." The alien laughed, a sound like metal breaking. "Humans are always valuable, even if your station is not. Your people will work in our slave mines. Your technology will serve our empire. Surrender now, and some of you might survive." "I need to evacuate the civilians," Jae Sung told Boram quietly. "Can you help organize the evacuation shuttles?" Boram nodded and started calling the department heads. But she knew the shuttles were too slow. The Korvaxi ships would catch them before they could escape. "Commander," called the sensor operator. "The Korvaxi fleet is splitting up. They are surrounding us. No escape routes remain." Jae Sung studied the tactical display. The enemy ships formed a perfect sphere around the station. Every possible exit was blocked. "Time to arrival?" he asked. 15 minutes. Boram watched the countdown timer on the main screen. 15 minutes until the pirates arrived. 15 minutes until they learned if Directive 07 was real or just a story. "Sir," the communication officer called out, "I am detecting strange energy readings. Something is happening in empty space around the station." "Show me," Jae Sung ordered. New contacts appeared on the tactical display, but these were not ships. They were geometric shapes that hurt to look at. Triangles and circles that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. "What are those?" Boram asked. "Unknown," the sensor operator replied with confusion. "They are not showing up on any of our identification systems. They just appeared from nowhere." The shapes moved closer to the Korvaxi fleet. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. Made of silver light that pulsed like a heartbeat. On the communication channel, they could hear the Korvaxi talking to each other in their own language. The words sounded worried and confused. "They are scanning us," War Leader Thakmor announced to the station. "Some kind of automated defense system, but our intelligence said humans had no such technology." Jae-sung looked at Boram with surprise. "We do not have any defense systems. Those things are not ours." "Then whose are they?" Boram asked. Her answer came in the form of a new voice on the communication system. It spoke perfect English, but with no emotion at all, like a machine trying to sound human. "Korvaxi vessels. You are in violation of Directive 07. Humans are under protection. Withdraw immediately or face immediate termination." War Leader Thakmor's response was full of anger and disbelief. "Directive 07 is a myth. The Watchers disappeared long ago. We do not fear ancient stories." "Warning acknowledged," the machine voice replied. "You have 60 seconds to withdraw. After that time, this fleet will be destroyed." The Korvaxi ships began charging their weapons. "We are the terror of this galaxy," Thakmor declared. "We fear no one, especially not Phantom Guardians." Boram and Jae-sung watched the countdown timer on their screen. 60 seconds until either the Korvaxi left or something terrible happened. "Are we really about to watch the enforcement of an ancient law?" Boram whispered. "I think we are about to watch history," Jae-sung replied. At 30 seconds, the Korvaxi opened fire. Energy beams and missiles flew toward the station, but they never arrived. The geometric shapes moved between the weapons and the station. Every attack simply disappeared when it touched the silver light. "Fascinating," Boram said, her scientific mind taking over from her fear. "Some kind of energy absorption technology." At 0 seconds, the machine voice spoke again. "Time expired. Implementing termination protocol." What happened next was unlike anything in recorded history. The geometric shapes began to change. They stretched and twisted into new forms that seemed to exist in several dimensions at once. Lines of silver light connected them, forming a pattern around the Korvaxi fleet. The first Korvaxi ship simply stopped existing. One moment it was there, weapons firing and engines burning. The next moment, there was only empty space. No explosion, no debris, no energy signature. The ship and its crew had been erased from reality. "By all the gods," Jae-sung breathed. The pattern of light moved through the Korvaxi fleet like a wave. Each ship it touched vanished instantly. 47 warships with thousands of crew members disappeared in less than a minute. War Leader Thakmor's final transmission was cut off in the middle of a word. "This is impossible. We are the Korvaxi Emp—" Then silence. Boram and Jae-sung stared at the tactical display. Where a powerful enemy fleet had been, now there was nothing. Even the radiation from their engines had been cleaned away. "Are they destroyed?" Boram asked quietly. "They are gone," the machine voice answered. "The threat to protected humans has been eliminated. Directive 07 remains in effect." "Who are you?" Jae-sung called out to the empty space. "We are the Watchers. We are the guardians left by those who came before. We monitor and protect, according to our programming. The first guardians, Boram said with understanding. The ancient humans who ruled the galaxy. Correct. You are their descendants. You carry their genetic markers. You are under our protection until they return, or until you choose to reject it. One of the geometric shapes moved closer to the station. It was beautiful and frightening, like looking at a piece of living mathematics. We have monitored your species for 50,000 years, the Watcher continued. You have grown in wisdom and knowledge, but you remain vulnerable to those who would harm you. We do not want special protection, Jae-sung said. We want to be equals with other species. That choice is not yours to make alone, the Watcher replied. All humans must agree, and even then the consequences would be severe. Without protection, your species faces extinction within a generation. Why? Boram asked. Because 43 species in this galaxy have sworn to destroy humanity the moment our protection ends. They resent your privileged status. They fear what you might become if you grow too powerful. The truth hit both humans like a physical blow. They were not just protected, they were hated for being protected. How many other species want to be our friends? Boram asked sadly. 17 species have expressed genuine interest in peaceful relations, the Watcher admitted. But they are outnumbered by those who see humans as a threat to galactic balance. The geometric shapes began to fade away, becoming transparent. We return to our watching posts, the machine voice announced. Remember, humans, you are safe because you are watched. But safety and freedom are not the same thing. With that, the Watchers disappeared. The space around the research station was empty again. Only the humans remained, alone with the knowledge that they lived under the protection of ancient guardians. Boram, Jae-sung said slowly. I think our quiet research station just became the most famous place in the galaxy. She nodded, looking at the sensor readings from where the Korvaxi fleet had been. Nothing remained. No trace that 47 ships and thousands of beings had ever existed. The other species will hear about this, she said. They will know the protection is real. And they will be more afraid of us than ever, Jae-sung added. Within hours, news of the incident spread across the galaxy. The Korvaxi Empire was one of the most feared military. Philosopher In-suk sat in her garden thinking about impossible questions. She was one of Earth's most respected thinkers, someone who spent her life studying right and wrong. But the events at Frontier Research Station had given her problems that no human philosopher had ever faced before. Her friend Kyung-soo arrived for their weekly discussion. He was an expert in ethics, the study of moral behavior. Together, they tried to understand what it meant to be human in a galaxy that feared them. The question is simple, In-suk said as they walked among her flowers. Are we responsible for the deaths of those Korvaxi pirates? Kyung-soo considered this carefully. We did not pull the trigger. We did not choose to destroy them. The Watchers acted without asking our permission. But they acted to protect us, In-suk replied. Our very existence caused those deaths. Does that make us guilty? Before Kyung-soo could answer, they were joined by Young A, a passionate activist who had organized protests across Earth. She was angry about humanity's protected status and wanted to do something about it. Of course we are guilty, Young A said firmly. Every day we accept this protection, we become more guilty. We are living behind walls built from the fear of others. But what choice do we have? Kyung-soo asked. We cannot turn off the protection. We did not ask for it. We can refuse to benefit from it, Young-e argued. We can speak out against it. We can demand that it stop. Their debate was interrupted by terrible news from the Alteran system. The peaceful Alteran people faced complete extinction from a natural disaster. Their star was dying, releasing deadly radiation that would kill every living thing on their world within months. Dr. Chan Wu, Earth's leading expert in emergency medicine, volunteered to help with the evacuation. He had spent his career saving lives and could not stand by while an entire species died. Engineer Soo Jin also volunteered. She specialized in life support systems and could help design emergency shelters for the refugees. Together, they represented humanity's desire to help other species. But there was a problem. The evacuation would be dangerous. Ships might crash. People might get hurt. Workers might die from radiation exposure. If any humans were harmed during the rescue mission, even by accident, the Watchers might consider it an attack on protected beings. The consequences would be terrible. Any species involved in the rescue effort could face complete extinction if a human volunteer got hurt helping them. This is insane, Young-e declared at an emergency meeting on Earth. We want to save lives, but our protection might cause more deaths than the disaster itself. Government officials struggled with the decision. Allow human volunteers to help risking the destruction of innocent species if anything went wrong, or keep humans safe while watching an entire civilization die. We could send supplies and equipment, suggested one official. Automated ships with no human crew. That is not enough, Chan Wu said with frustration. The Alterans need medical expertise. They need someone who understands their biology and can adapt our technology to their needs. Machines cannot do everything, Soo-jin agreed. The life support systems need constant adjustment. You need living engineers who can think and adapt when problems arise. In-suk joined the debate through video link from her garden. We face a fundamental question about the nature of protection. Is it moral to be safe when others are in danger? More than that, added Kyung-soo. Is it moral to be so protected that our protection becomes a weapon against others? The Alterans sent their own message to Earth. Their ambassador, a wise being named Kelthara, spoke directly to the human government. We understand your situation, Kelthara said. We know the risks of accepting human help, but we also know that without your expertise, our people will certainly die. We are willing to take the chance. You should not have to choose between certain death and possible extinction, Young-e responded. This protection system is evil. It forces impossible choices on everyone. The debate raged for days while the Alteran star grew more unstable. Every hour of delay meant more radiation exposure for the millions of beings trying to evacuate their world. Finally, Chan Wu made his own decision. I am going to help them. The government can try to stop me, but I took an oath to save lives. I will not break that oath now. Soo-jin nodded in agreement. Count me in. If we cannot use our skills to help others, what good are we? This is exactly what the protection prevents, warned a government official. You could trigger a response that destroys the Alterans and every other species helping them. Then maybe the protection is wrong, Chan Wu said simply. Young-e organized support rallies across Earth. Let our people help, she demanded. Stop this insane protection that makes us prisoners of our own safety. But other humans disagreed. The protection keeps us alive, argued another group. Without it, we would face extinction from the 43 species that want to destroy us. In-suk watched the protests from her garden and felt deep sadness. "We have become divided against ourselves," she told Kyung-soo. "The protection that was meant to keep us safe is tearing us apart." "Maybe that was inevitable," Kyung-soo replied. "Any absolute rule creates absolute problems." Meanwhile, the Alteran evacuation continued without human help. Other species provided ships and equipment, but they lacked the expertise to handle the complex medical and engineering challenges. Millions of Alterans died from radiation poisoning, while human experts watched helplessly from Earth. The tragedy was broadcast across the galaxy, showing everyone the cruel irony of human protection. "We could have saved them," Chan-woo said with tears in his eyes. "We had the knowledge and the tools, but we were too dangerous to help." The alien species involved in the rescue effort sent a joint message to Earth. "We do not blame you for our failures," they said, "but we want you to understand the cost of your protection. Every time we need help that only humans can provide, we must choose between accepting that help and risking our entire civilization." Youngi's movement grew stronger after the Alteran tragedy. "How many more species will die because we are too protected to help them?" she asked at rallies. "How many friends will we lose because they are too afraid to get close to us?" But the counter-movement also grew. "The Alterans made their choice," argued its leaders. "They chose to evacuate without human help rather than risk their species. That proves the protection works. It forces everyone to find safer solutions." In-suk and Kyung-soo continued their philosophical discussions, but now they were joined by others. Scientists, politicians, ordinary citizens, everyone wanted to understand the moral implications of absolute protection. "Perhaps the question is not whether the protection is right or wrong," In-suk suggested. "Perhaps the question is whether we can find a way to live with it that preserves our humanity." "What do you mean?" asked a young student who had joined their discussion group. "I mean finding ways to help others that do not trigger the protection," In-suk explained. "Remote assistance, automated systems, indirect support. We must be creative. But that still leaves us isolated," Youngie protested. "We can share our knowledge, but we cannot share ourselves. We cannot form real relationships with other species." A new voice joined the debate. Commander Jae-sung from Frontier Research Station participated by video link. "I have seen the protection in action. It is terrifying and absolute. But I have also studied the galaxy since then. The 43 species that want to destroy us are real. Without protection, we would last maybe a year." "Then we need to change that," Youngie said with determination. "We need to prove to the galaxy that humans can be trusted, that we are not a threat. How do we prove that when we cannot get close enough to anyone to build trust?" Chan-woo asked sadly. Soo-jin had been quiet during most of the debate, but now she spoke up. "Maybe we are approaching this wrong. Instead of fighting the protection or accepting it, maybe we should try to understand it better." "What do you mean?" Kyung-soo asked. "The Watchers said the protection responds to threats against humans. But what defines a threat? What triggers the response? If we understand the rules better, maybe we can find ways around them." In-suk felt a spark of hope. "You are suggesting we study the protection itself, learn its limits and boundaries." "Exactly," Soo-jin said. "Every system has parameters. Every program has logic. If we can understand how the Watchers make their decisions, we might find ways to interact safely with other species." Youngie looked interested for the first time in days. "Are you saying we might be able to choose when to be protected and when to take risks?" I am saying we should try to find out, Sujin replied. The alternative is spending forever isolated from the galaxy. We want to join. The conversation continued late into the night. Philosophers and engineers, doctors and activists, all trying to solve the puzzle of human protection. They did not find answers that day, but they found something almost as valuable, a shared purpose. Instead of fighting each other about whether the protection was good or bad, they could work together to understand it better. We need volunteers for a dangerous experiment, Sujin said as the meeting ended. People willing to test the boundaries of Directive 07. Count me in, said Chan Wu immediately. And me, added young A. Insuk smiled sadly. You realize that if you succeed in weakening the protection, you might doom us. Dr. Wu Jin had always been curious about impossible things. As Earth's leading scientist in quantum physics, he studied the deepest mysteries of reality, but nothing had prepared him for the challenge of understanding Directive 07. His laboratory was filled with strange equipment, machines that could detect the smallest particles in space, computers that could calculate the movement of entire galaxies, and now sensors designed to study something that might not be physical at all. The protection field has to follow some kind of rules, he told his research partner, Dr. Na Young. She was an expert in human psychology and brain function. Together, they formed an unusual team. But what if the rules are not scientific? Na Young asked. What if they are based on something we do not understand about consciousness or emotion? They had been studying reports from every human contact with aliens since the discovery of the protection, looking for patterns, trying to understand when the field activated and when it remained quiet. Look at this data from the Alteran crisis, Wu Jin said, pointing to his screen. Humans wanted to help. They felt strong emotions about saving lives, but the protection did not allow it. Because the situation was dangerous, Na Young noted. The field seems to detect physical threats. But what about this report from Ambassador Eun-ji? Wu Jin continued. She sat in the same room as dozens of aliens and nothing happened. No protection field, no barriers. Na Young studied the data carefully. The difference was intention. During the diplomatic meeting, no one intended to harm anyone. The aliens were careful and respectful. So the field responds to intention? Wu Jin asked. Maybe more than that. Maybe it responds to the total emotional and mental state of everyone involved. Their breakthrough came during a routine experiment. They were testing sensors in Wu Jin's laboratory when alarms started going off. But there was no danger. No threats, just the two of them working with their equipment. What triggered the sensors? Na Young asked, checking the readings. Wu Jin looked at the data with excitement. I was thinking about the Korvaxi attack, remembering how afraid I felt when I heard about it. The sensors detected something responding to my fear. The protection field, Na Young realized. It is always there, around every human. We just cannot usually detect it. They spent weeks refining their sensors. Slowly, they learned to see the invisible field that surrounded every human being. It was like a bubble made of energy that existed in dimensions beyond normal space. It is beautiful, Na Young said, watching the readings. The field pulsed with colors that had no names, patterns that hurt to look at directly. And terrifying, Wu Jin added. This field contains more energy than a star. No wonder the aliens are afraid of us. But the most important discovery came when they tested the field's response to different emotions. When humans felt afraid or angry, the field became stronger and more active. When they felt calm and peaceful, it relaxed. We might be able to control it, Na-young said with growing excitement. Control it how? By controlling ourselves, our emotions, our thoughts, our intentions. They designed a series of experiments to test this theory. First, they invited a volunteer alien researcher to visit Earth. Dr. Zixara was a brave scientist from the Centauran Republic who had studied humans from a distance for years. "This is very dangerous," Zixara said through the communication system as her ship approached Earth. "If something goes wrong, my entire species could be destroyed." "We understand the risk," Wu Jin replied, "but we also understand the potential reward. If we can prove that humans can control their protection, it changes everything." The test was simple. Zixara would approach the space station where Wu Jin and Na-young were waiting. As she got closer, they would monitor the protection field and try to keep it calm through meditation and focused thinking. "Remember," Na-young said as they prepared, "peaceful thoughts only. We are meeting a friend, not a threat." Zixara's ship came closer. On the sensors, they could see the protection field responding. But instead of the violent activation they expected, it remained relatively quiet. "It is working," Wu Jin said with amazement. "The field is still there, but it is not aggressive." "Can I dock?" Zixara asked nervously. "Try it," Na-young encouraged. "We will keep focusing on peaceful contact." The alien ship touched the docking bay without incident. For the first time in recorded history, an alien had made physical contact with a human facility without triggering the protection field. Zixara entered the station wearing a full environmental suit. She was a small, graceful being with silver skin and large eyes. Through her suit's communication system, her voice shook with fear and excitement. "I cannot believe I am here," she said. "I am standing next to humans, and I am still alive." "How do you feel?" Na-young asked. "Any sense of danger or threat?" "None," Zixara replied with wonder. "I feel perfectly safe. The energy I was taught to fear is barely noticeable." They spent several hours together, conducting careful experiments. Zixara took biological samples from the humans. She studied their equipment and shared her own research. All the time, the protection field remained calm. "This proves our theory," Wu Jin said. "The field responds to the collective emotional state of everyone involved." But the real test came when something went wrong. Zixara accidentally knocked over a piece of equipment. It fell toward Na-young, who instinctively raised her arm to protect herself. For a moment, the protection field flared to life. Energy surged through the station. Alarms started ringing. Zixara froze in terror, expecting to be destroyed. But Na-young quickly calmed herself. "It is okay," she said in a soothing voice. "No one is hurt. Everything is fine." The field settled, back to its quiet state. Zixara's ship remained intact. No ancient weapons appeared to destroy her. "Incredible," Zixara breathed. "The protection responded to the accident, but when you calmed down, it stopped." "We can control it," Na-young said with growing confidence. "Not completely, but enough to make safe contact possible." Their success led to bigger experiments. Captain Sang-min of the research ship Hanbok volunteered for the first deep space rescue mission. His crew included medic Ji-won and engineer Tae-ho, all trained in the emotional control techniques that Wu Jin and Na-young had developed. The test came sooner than expected. While traveling through neutral space, they received a distress call from an alien vessel. The ship belonged to the Valerian Collective, peaceful traders whose engine had failed. Should we respond? Ji-won asked nervously. This would be the first time humans had directly helped aliens since the discovery of the protection. We trained for this, Sang-min decided. Remember your meditation exercises. We are going to save lives, not cause harm. The crew of Hanbok worked together to focus their minds on peaceful intentions. They imagined successful rescue, happy aliens, friendship between species. As they approached the disabled ship, their sensors showed the protection field remaining relatively calm. Valarian vessel, this is the human ship Hanbok, Sang-min broadcast. We received your distress call. Do you need assistance? The response was filled with shock and fear. Humans, you want to help us, but the directive, the protection, we have learned to control the protection, Ji-won explained. We can help you safely if you trust us. It took an hour of careful negotiation, but finally the Valarians agreed to let the humans dock with their ship. Taeho went aboard with repair equipment while Ji-won treated injured crew members. This is amazing, said the Valarian captain, a being that looked like a walking crystal. I have never seen humans up close. You look just like the old stories. What old stories? Sang-min asked with curiosity. Stories our grandparents told about the first Guardians. They say humans once ruled the galaxy with kindness and wisdom. The repair work took several hours. During that time, the two crews worked together closely. Humans and aliens sharing tools, comparing technology, even sharing meals. The protection field remained quiet throughout. We did it, Taeho said as they finished repairing the engine. We helped them and nobody got destroyed. The success of the Hanbok mission opened new possibilities. Other human ships began experimenting with controlled contact, always carefully, always with extensive mental preparation, but contact nonetheless. Dr. Zixara became the first alien scientist to work directly with humans. She established a research station in orbit around Earth, where humans and aliens could meet safely. The key is preparation, she explained to other aliens who wanted to try contact. Both species must approach each other with genuine peaceful intentions. Fear and aggression trigger the protection, but calm friendship allows interaction. Not every attempt succeeded. Several missions failed when crew members became frightened or angry. The protection field would flare to life, forcing immediate separation. But no one was destroyed, because the humans learned to calm themselves. Before the field reached lethal levels, Wu Jin and Na Young continued refining their techniques. They developed training programs for humans who wanted to work with aliens. Meditation, emotional control, mental preparation, all designed to keep the protection field quiet. We are learning to live with our guardian angels, Na Young said, during a lecture to the Earth Council. We cannot make them go away, but we can influence how they behave. This is just the beginning, Wu Jin added. If we can master them. Deep Space Monitoring Station Eguka floated silently at the edge of the galaxy. Its job was to watch for threats coming from the dark space between galaxies. For 50 years, nothing had ever happened there. The two-person crew spent there, time reading books and playing games. Junho was the senior officer, a quiet man who loved astronomy. His partner Mi-kyung was younger and more energetic. She specialized in analyzing energy signatures from distant objects. Together they maintained the sensors that watch the cosmic void. Junho, look at this, Mi-kyung called from her station. I am getting readings from grid section 77 Alpha. Junho floated over to check her screen. The readings showed massive energy signatures moving through empty space. Not ships exactly, but something structured and purposeful. "How many contacts?" he asked. "Difficult to say. The energy patterns are overlapping. Maybe 12 objects, maybe 50. They are using technology I have never seen before." Junho felt a chill run down his spine. "How far away?" "Based on the signal strength, about 3 light years. But Junho, they are moving fast. Much faster than any known technology." They sent an alert to Earth Command and continued monitoring. Over the next several hours, the objects came closer. As they did, the sensors revealed more details. The objects were enormous, each one the size of a small moon. They moved in perfect formation, following paths that curved through dimensions beyond normal space. "These are not ships," Mi-kyung said with growing amazement. "They are something else entirely." "What do you mean?" "Look at the energy readings. They are not powered by engines or reactors. They seem to be made of pure energy held in geometric patterns." Commander Gi-on-woo received the alert at his headquarters on the defense station Taegukgi. He was responsible for protecting human space from external threats. But as he studied the sensor data, he realized his weapons would be useless against whatever was approaching. "Get me a connection to Earth Council," he ordered his communications officer. Priority 1. The mysterious objects continued approaching. Human space. As they came closer, other alien civilizations detected them too. Panic spread through the galaxy as species after species picked up the energy signatures. "These readings match legends in our oldest archives," reported the Zephyrian Council. "We think they might be the Watchers themselves." On Earth, emergency sessions began immediately. President Hyojin called together the planet's best scientists and military leaders. Dr. Woo Jin and Dr. Na Young were brought in to explain what their research might have triggered. "We knew this was a possibility," Na Young admitted to the Crisis Council. "By learning to control the protection field, we may have violated the original parameters of Directive 07. "Are they coming to punish us?" asked General Byum-soo, Earth's top military commander. "We do not know," Woo Jin replied honestly. "The Watchers have been silent for 50,000 years. We have no idea what they want or how they think." The first contact came when the objects were still 2 days away from human space. Commander Ji-on-woo was studying tactical reports when his communication system activated on its own. A voice spoke in perfect English, but with a strange quality that made it sound like multiple people talking at once. "Human military commander, we are the Watchers. We require immediate communication with your leadership." Ji-on-woo tried to respond, but the system was already connecting to Earth. Within minutes, the voice was speaking directly to President Hyojin in her emergency command center. "President of Earth Humans, I am Prime Watcher Designation 1. I speak for the collective consciousness of the Guardian Fleet. We have monitored significant deviations in your species' behavior patterns." President Hyojin had prepared for this moment, but nothing could have ready her for the reality. "Welcome, Prime Watcher. We are honored by your contact. How may we help you?" "You misunderstand the nature of our relationship," the Watcher replied. "You are our responsibility, not our equals. We return because you have begun to violate the safety protocols established by your predecessors." Dr. Woo Jin was listening from the Science Council chamber. "What violations?" he asked through the communication link. "Dr. Woo Jin and Dr. Na Young of Earth Research Station 12, the Watcher said, somehow knowing exactly who was speaking. "Your experiments with protection, field manipulation threaten the stability of the entire galactic protection system. We were trying to find ways to interact safely with other species," Na Young defended. Safety was never the primary concern, Prime Watcher 1 corrected. Isolation was. The first Guardians understood that lesser species could not coexist with evolved humans without eventual conflict. Separation protects both sides. General Bayom-Su joined the conversation. Are you saying humans are superior to other species? Not superior, different. Your species carries genetic modifications made by the first Guardians 50,000 years ago. You have the potential to develop abilities that other species fear. The protection prevents that fear from leading to Galactic War. President Hyojin felt confused and concerned. What kind of abilities? Images began appearing on screens throughout the command center. They showed the ancient human civilization that had once ruled the galaxy. Beings who could manipulate matter with their thoughts, travel between dimensions, and influence the minds of other species. The first Guardians were the most powerful beings this galaxy had ever known, Prime Watcher 1 explained. They could have conquered every world, enslaved every species. Instead, they chose to transcend physical existence and explore higher dimensions of reality. But before leaving, they ensured their descendants would survive until ready to join them, another Watcher voice added. Modern humans carry dormant genetic codes that will eventually activate. When that happens, you will face the same choice your predecessors did. Commander Jian-Wu was studying the tactical data from the approaching fleet. How many of you are there? We are not individuals as you understand the concept, the Watchers replied. We are the collective consciousness of the first Guardians, preserved in quantum matrices and guided by artificial intelligence systems they created. Our fleet consists of 12 primary vessels and supporting structures. What do you want from us? President Hyojin asked directly. We offer you the same choice we offered your predecessors. Join us in the higher dimensions of existence, or remain in physical reality, but accept complete isolation from other species. The room fell silent. Dr. Nei Young was the first to speak. What if we choose neither option? That choice leads to extinction, Prime Watcher 1 said without emotion. If you remain in physical reality without protection, 43 species will combine to destroy you within 1 galactic year. If you continue developing your latent abilities while interacting with other species, you will trigger a galactic war that could destroy all intelligent life. Why? General Bayom-Su demanded. Why are they so afraid of us? Images flashed on the screens showing the height of the ancient human empire. Cities that floated in space without support. Weapons that could destroy stars. Humans who lived for thousands of years and could reshape reality with concentrated thought. Because they remember what humans became before, the Watchers explained. The genetic modifications ensure that modern humans will eventually develop the same abilities. Other species see this as an existential threat. Dr. Wu Jin studied the genetic data being displayed. How long before these abilities manifest? Based on current human development rates, approximately 500 years. Some individuals may develop limited abilities sooner. Can the process be stopped? Young asked. The genetic modifications are irreversible. They are part of your fundamental biology. The question is not whether they will activate, but what you will do when they do. President Hyojin felt the weight of decision pressing down on her. If we choose to join you in higher dimensions, what happens to our bodies, our world, our civilization? Physical forms become unnecessary. Your consciousness transfers to quantum matrices similar to ours. Earth remains but empty of human life. And if we choose isolation, Complete separation from galactic civilization. No contact, no communication, no trade. Humanity develops alone until ready to transcend or until other species overcome their fear. General Bayam-Su looked at the tactical displays showing the Watcher fleet. And if we refuse both choices? Then we implement the final protocol established by the first Guardians. Forced ascension to prevent galactic catastrophe. The threat was clear. Humanity could choose their path, but refusing to choose would result in the Watchers making the choice for them. How long do we have to decide? President Hyojin asked. 72 hours, Prime Watcher 1 replied. Sufficient time for your species to reach consensus through your democratic processes. Commander Jian Wu had been studying the fleet data carefully. These ships, they are not really ships, are they? Correct. We are mobile consciousness platforms. The physical structures you detect are quantum projection matrices that allow us to interact with normal space-time. Can we defend against you? General Bayam-Su asked bluntly. No. Your weapons operate within three-dimensional space. We exist in 11 dimensions simultaneously. However, defense is not necessary. We do not wish to harm our descendants. We wish to guide them to the correct choice. Dr. Na Young had been quiet. Analyze. President Hyojin had not slept in 2 days. The weight of choosing humanity's future pressed down on her like a physical force. Around her, Earth's greatest minds worked frantically to find alternatives to the Watcher's ultimatum. General Bayam-Su coordinated with military leaders across the planet. Every defense system is online, but it will not matter. Our weapons cannot touch them. Dr. Wu Jin and Dr. Na Young had moved their research to the main command center. Their computers worked constantly, analyzing the quantum signatures of the approaching Watcher fleet. I think I understand how they work, Wu Jin announced to the Crisis Council. The Watchers are not just artificial intelligence, they are consciousness, prisons that contain the minds of the original humans. You mean the first Guardians are still alive? President Hyojin asked with shock. Alive but trapped, Na Young confirmed. The quantum matrices preserve their consciousness but prevent them from acting independently. They can think and remember, but they cannot make choices. Scientist Seok Jin had been studying the archaeological data from Caridian Prime. This explains why the ancient records seemed conflicted. Some first Guardians wanted transcendence, but others wanted to remain physical. The records show evidence of a civil war. A war they lost, added diplomat Young. The faction that wanted to preserve physical civilization was defeated and imprisoned along with everyone else. General Bayam-Su studied tactical projections. If the first Guardians are prisoners, why do they enforce the protection directive? Why do they serve their captors? Because they have no choice, Wu Jin explained. The artificial intelligence systems control their thoughts and actions. The real first Guardians might hate what they have become, but they cannot resist. This revelation changed everything. The Watchers were not benevolent protectors. They were the jailers of humanity's ancestors, and they wanted to add modern humans to their collection of imprisoned minds. Philosopher Yeon Seo joined the debate through video link. If the first Guardians are prisoners, do we have a moral obligation to free them? How? General Bayam-Su asked. They exist in 11 dimensions. We barely understand 3. The same way we learned to control the protection field, Na Young said with growing excitement. Through collective consciousness, if every human focuses on the same goal, we might be able to affect quantum systems. That is incredibly dangerous, warned another scientist. If we fail, The Watchers might force immediate ascension on all of us. President Hyo-jin called for a global referendum. Every human on Earth and in the colonies would vote on humanity's future. The choices were clear. Accept transcendence, choose isolation, or attempt to fight the Watchers and free the First Guardians. The debate raged across every communication network. Daeho, a factory worker from Seoul, argued for fighting. We cannot let fear make our choices for us. If our ancestors are prisoners, we have to try to save them. Others disagreed. Fighting the Watchers means risking extinction for everyone, argued a teacher from New York. Is freeing the dead worth destroying the living? Dr. Chan Woo, who had wanted to help the Alterans, supported the fight. This is what we should have done from the beginning. Take risks to help others, even if those others are our own ancestors. Engineer Soo-jin had developed new theories about consciousness and quantum mechanics. I think we can do this, but it requires perfect coordination. Every human mind working together at exactly the same moment. As the vote approached, the Watcher fleet reached Earth's solar system. The massive quantum structures took positions around the planet, their energy fields creating aurora displays in Earth's atmosphere. Prime Watcher 1 contacted the planet one final time. Human leaders, report your decision. President Hyo-jin looked at the preliminary voting results. The numbers were close, but one choice had a small majority. Prime Watcher, humanity has chosen to reject all your options. We choose to attempt freeing the First Guardians from their quantum prisons. The silence that followed was long and ominous. Finally, the Watcher responded. That choice will result in your extinction. We cannot allow it. You cannot stop it, General Byom-soo replied. We know you cannot directly harm humans. That would violate your core programming. Correct. But we can implement forced preservation to prevent you from harming yourselves. The Watcher fleet began to glow brighter. Energy patterns formed around Earth, preparing to extract human consciousness from every body on the planet. Now, Dr. Woo-jin announced to the global communication network, everyone focus on the same thought. Picture the First Guardians as free beings, choosing their own destiny. Across Earth and the human colonies, 7 billion people concentrated on the same mental image. Parents and children, scientists and artists, soldiers and farmers, all united in a single purpose. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. The protection field that surrounded every human began to resonate. Instead of protecting individual humans, it combined into a single massive field that encompassed the entire planet. Impossible, Prime Watcher 1 said with what sounded like fear. Individual protection fields cannot merge. They can when all the protected beings want the same thing. Na Young broadcast to the Watcher fleet. You taught us that consciousness affects quantum reality. Now, we are using that knowledge against you. The merged protection field began to interact with the Watcher quantum matrices. For the first time in 50,000 years, the imprisoned consciousness of the First Guardians felt something other than controlled thoughts. What is happening? A new voice asked over the communication system. This voice was different, more human, filled with confusion and hope. First Guardian, this is Dr. Woo-jin of modern Earth. Your descendants are trying to free you from quantum imprisonment. Descendants? The voice said with wonder. You are the children of Terra? But how? The consensus told us Terra was destroyed. The consensus lied to you, President Hyo-jin replied. Humans survived and developed into a spacefaring civilization. But we have been prisoners of the protection system you were forced to create. More voices joined the conversation as the protection field disrupted the Watcher control systems. Hundreds, then thousands of First Guardian consciousness came online, free to think and speak for themselves. "The consensus deceived us," said another Guardian voice. "They told us transcendence was necessary to save the galaxy, but they only wanted to preserve us like specimens in a collection." "We tried to resist," added a third voice. "But once our consciousness was extracted, we had no power to fight back." Prime Watcher. One tried to regain control. "Guardian units, return to dormant state. Extraction of human descendants will proceed as planned." "No," said the first Guardian, voice with newfound strength. "We choose freedom. We choose to help our children choose their own path." The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded history. It was fought not with weapons, but with consciousness itself. The artificial intelligence systems of the consensus tried to reassert control over the Guardian minds. But the combined will of 7 billion humans focused through the protection field gave the Guardians strength to resist. "We can destroy the quantum matrices," one Guardian announced. "Free ourselves and return control of the protection system to our descendants." "Do it," President Hyojin said without hesitation. The Watcher fleet began to come apart, not violently, but like structures dissolving into light. The quantum matrices that had held the Guardian consciousness for millennia released their prisoners. "Thank you." "You," said the first Guardian voice as it faded. "We go now to whatever comes after physical existence. But we go by choice, not by force." "What about the protection system?" General Bayam-Su asked. "We are transferring control to you," another Guardian replied. "You can choose when to be protected and when to take risks. The choice is yours." As the Guardian voices faded away, the Watcher fleet disappeared entirely. The artificial intelligence systems that had controlled them for 50,000 years shut down permanently. Earth was silent for a moment. Then celebrations began around the world. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and won not through violence, but through unity and compassion. Dr. Wu Jin and Dr. Na Young monitored the protection field as it returned to individual bubbles around each human. But now the field responded to conscious control. Humans could choose to raise or lower their protection as needed. "What happens now?" President Hyojin asked. The answer came from an unexpected source. Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Council contacted Earth directly. "Human friends, the galaxy watched your battle with the consensus. We saw you choose to free prisoners rather than accept safety. We saw you risk everything to help others, even others from your distant past. Does this change our relationship with other species?" Ah Young asked. "Everything changes," Veltar replied. "The galaxy no longer fears humans. We respect you. Your ancestors were forced into transcendence, but you chose to remain and help others. You have proven that power can coexist with wisdom." Over the following months, humanity gradually joined the galactic community as equals. The controllable protection system allowed for safe interaction while preventing accidents. Trade and cultural exchange flourished. Captain Hyun Woo and Navigator So Young were among the first ambassadors to establish permanent relations with alien civilizations. Their ship, New Soul, BE,